You're now listening to Loggers Tech Talks from Swamp Fox Insurance Agency.
All right, good morning. My name is Tank Bryant, and I am with Swamp Fox Insurance Agency. I am here with Mr. Scott Dane from the American Loggers Council. How you doing this morning, Mr. Scott?
Great. Good to be here.
All right. Mr. Scott Dane, I've seen you. I've heard you speak a number of times right now. Your experience in this industry is immeasurable at this point. I've learned a lot from hearing you talk, but I want you to kind of tell the listeners a little bit about yourself. What exactly do you do for the American Loggers Council, and kind of give us a little backstory on how you got involved in the logging industry?
Well, currently, I'm the executive director of the American Loggers Council, a national organization representing the timber industry in 45 states, comprised of state associations in those states and associate members, like Swamp Fox Agency is a member of the American Loggers Council. So I've been doing this for 20 years now, but my background's a little unusual in that I'm not a logger, I'm not a forester, I'm not a truck driver. I have no background formally in the timber industry. At least I did when I started. I've learned a little bit over 20 years, but I was a merchant marine officer for 15 years, sailing ships around the world. Got to a point in my career where I had two little boys that were 4 and 6 years old, and I decided that don't want to raise my kids being gone. So I left the merchant marines and came to Minnesota to raise our kids up. And some loggers I met asked if I would develop an association for them in Minnesota. And again, I confessed. I said, guys, you're asking the wrong guy. I don't know anything about logging. And they said, we don't need you to log. We know how to do that part. But we need you to organize an association for us and represent us and give us a voice in Minnesota. So we said, well, let's see if we can, where it goes. And that lasted for 17 years.
Okay.
And it was a great learning experience. I have learned a lot about the timber industry, obviously, during that period of time. And then the American Loggers Council executive director at the time, Mr. Danny Drucker, who had been there for 20 years, was retiring. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to step up to that position if I was selected. So I applied for the job. And just over 3 years ago, I was offered the position of the American Loggers Council. And so that's what got me to where I am, from working on ships to representing the timber industry across the United States.
Okay. And now let me ask you this, just because I'm also new to the logging industry. I sold insurance to truckers, but never loggers. How was that transition coming from the, merchant marines and then diving into the industry of logging? I mean, I know the learning curve for me was a little steep. So how was that transition for you? I know you're doing a different side of it than what I'm doing, but how was that transition for you, taking over that role and getting into the logging industry?
The logging industry is a very unique community. It has its own language, if you will. It has its own equipment. It has its own processes. So if you weren't raised in the logging industry, you can't talk the logging industry. I never wanted to pretend that I was. So I just, had an open mind to learn things, to transition. But, I remember early on when, not being a forester, and I'm in Minnesota, and I'm supposed to know about trees because I represent the logging industry. I'm not a forester. I didn't go to college on tree identification, and said, okay, well, help me out, guys. Give me a crash course in forestry. And they said, okay, that white tree over there that doesn't have the curling bark on it is not a birch. That's an aspen. That's good enough. 2 white trees in Minnesota. One's it's a birch, and the other one's an aspen. And then they said a little later on, they said, yeah, that's a poplar over there. I said, wait a minute, guys. You told me it was an aspen. Well, it's an aspen, it's a poplar, same thing. It's like, give me one name, so I can learn the learning curve. So there's really some idiosyncrasies within the language within the timber industry that they take for granted. Talking about equipment, which is fascinating in the logging industry. You've got conventional operations and cut to length operations. You have 3 different processes aside from hand felling. And on conventional operations, you have a delimber, and that's the machine that strips the branches, delimbs the tree. But I don't know why, but for some reason, loggers don't like to have a lot of words in their vocabulary, maybe, but they just cut it down short to a limber.
Okay.
And as opposed to a delimber. I said, okay, good. So you learn the language and stuff. So it's a learning curve, but here's the bottom line. For you, Jerome, as well as for myself, if you've got the managerial and the leadership skill sets that you develop through other occupations, you can transfer those to a new occupation. Now, granted, you have that learning curve to learn that industry, but if you just bring those managerial skills with you, you can apply them to other industries.
Okay, absolutely. And like I said, I've definitely been learning a lot over the last couple months. And one of the things that's helped me and has opened my eyes is coming to summits like the Loggers Technology Summit, which that's what we're doing here over the next couple of days. For you, what are some key takeaways from the Loggers Technology Summit, and how do you see the advancements that you've heard impacting the logging industry?
I'm going to steal something from my days in the Merchant Marines, and this is how we used to refer to the Coast Guard, which is part of regulating the Merchant Marines. But I'm going to adapt that to the timber industry, and no disrespect intended for the people I represent, loggers. I admire them and do what they do. But speaking of technology, we adopted this from the Coast Guard, the way we refer to the Coast Guard. The timber industry is based on tradition, regardless of progress. Okay, so they're slow to not grasp, but to accept new technology. And technology is changing quickly, whether it be the logging equipment that's out there or the trucks. And that's been the most enlightening takeaway from this summit that we're having here on technology, when we're talking about trucking, which is really one of the most challenging aspects of the timber industry, in that it's hard to find truck drivers. It's hard to get insurance on trucks. Insurance is going up dramatically on price. As an example, in the Southeast, it's not uncommon for a truck premium to be $15,000 to $20,000 a year.
Or more, yeah, absolutely.
Coffee generalities and stuff. Up in the Midwest, it's $5,000 to $6,000.
Absolutely.
So there's a real challenge there. And so with this technology brings an opportunity for people to lower the risk of accidents and make trucking safer. And the one thing that I was just outside looking at the autonomous truck that Auburn University is developing, and that's exciting. It's actually on the verge of commercialization. There's no question about that. The technology is coming. And then there was a presentation just now by Western Star that was talking about collision mitigation systems with cameras and brake assisting and stuff like that. So technology can provide some solutions to the challenges within the industry, but we need to know about that. So these conferences or seminars that you guys are offering, provides us an opportunity to learn about this. I'm just getting ready to write up a post to send to our marketing communications director to put our media platforms to get this information out.
Yeah, and you bring up some interesting names just now, and like I said, coming to events like these definitely enlightened me, and it sounds like it's enlightened you also on the different technology that we just don't hear about. And you come to a summit like the Loggers Technology Summit, and you get to hear about these advancements that's taking place now and some that may be a couple years out. I guess my next question for you is, given your extensive experience, how do you think the logging industry has evolved over the years, particularly in terms of technology adoption?
You look back to the logging industry 40 years ago, what we're doing today would have seemed futuristic. It's amazing, the evolution of the logging industry, and I think it'll continue to evolve as well. But it's not what it was years ago. The reputation it has as being the most dangerous job in the country, or the second most dangerous job in the country, really isn't accurate anymore when you think about the modern mechanized logging operations that exist today. Reports from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which I met with them in Washington, D.C. to review their report, you'll see that 75% of the accidents that happen in the logging industry are small operations and typically hand felling operations, not mechanized operations. That's only 25%. So when they just group it all together, it skews the data and the safety, the real safety risks, if you will, or challenges that are there. So yeah, the technology, the modernization, the mechanization has really evolved, and today's timber industry isn't your grandpa's timber industry.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, we were just having that conversation last night because I've never visited a logging site. And I was talking with one of my colleagues who's never visited a logging site, and us just thinking about it outside the box was like, that seems wild to what they're doing out there. You're cutting down trees. There's things going over your head. I almost kind of think of it like I would picture the port being the port of Charleston, but just with trees instead of containers, so it does seem, but it's good to hear you say that, the advancements have taken place. And, so here we are, we're at the Loggers Technology Summit put on by Swamp Fox Agency. I guess my next question is, what has your experience been working with Swamp Fox, and how important a partnership like these in the advancing of the goals of the American Loggers Council?
The timber industry is made up of a network of partners. The industry cannot exist without the partnerships that are out there. The American Loggers Council has members from all the vendors, all the major vendors, all the truck companies. We're talking about Western Stars here and Peterbilt Southside right now, and International Truck are all members. And the same thing with financial institutions. We need financial partners, and the industry needs insurance partners. And Swamp Fox Agency is an associate member of the American Loggers Council, along with other insurance companies as well. But we all need to work together to understand the challenges and solve those challenges. And these are great opportunities at these conferences to network and try to develop a plan to address some of these specific issues, with the cost of insurance and the accident rates, and to lower those and stuff. So,
okay.
Yeah, this industry does not exist without the partnerships that we have.
Okay. And from your perspective, what would you say the most pressing challenges currently facing the logging industry, and how can technology help address some of those issues?
Well, two things. First of all, they say that the logging industry is the only industry where the more efficient you become, the less money you make. Okay. Talk about technology, okay? Whether we're increasing weights on trucks to haul more to the mills or doing other things, it just seems like that whenever a logging industry becomes more efficient, incorporating technology or whatever it might be, that the end user, the buyer of the timber, quite often recognizes that improvement in efficiency and takes advantage of it as an opportunity to reduce the price of wood. So you can produce more with less, so we can pay you less. So that's one of the challenges there. But the overall greatest challenge to the timber industry in the United States, I'm excited you asked that question, because we look at all these things, workforce development, insurance, equipment costs, all these things, it's overwhelming. Well, if you boil it all down, and we've done that in the American Loggers Council, it comes down to one common denominator, one common problem that addresses all of the other existential
there we go.
Issues that we just talked about. And that's markets.
Okay.
We need market development, because market development, first of all, we are the number one global importer of softwood lumber in the world. That's crazy. We've got the timber here, the resource here, and everything else. We need to develop those markets and quit importing timber from other countries, because that will support our landowners, it will support our loggers, it will support our mills that make products and stuff. So, we want to use American resources, American labor, and make American-made products. But market development will create competition amongst the mills. Competition amongst the mills will drive an increase in price or value of timber being brought to those mills, because they have to compete with each other. When there's limited markets, it's almost a monopoly, where that facility can dictate the price, take it or leave it. So market development is the key. Now, what markets are going to develop? That's the next part of this question. And we're excited about the opportunities within the bioenergy or biomass sectors, or unmerchantable timber. When you've lost mills that use a certain species, there's no more value to that. It's unmerchantable. We need to find a replacement market for that, and that's the bioindustry sector, whether it be sustainable aviation fuel from forest-based biomass, or biochar, lots of different opportunities. Even small diameter wood can be incorporated into cross-laminate timber or mass timber projects, and that's gaining a lot of traction as well in the United States. So the biggest challenge is the lack of markets, and the solution is development of markets.
Well, Mr. Scott Dane, I do appreciate you coming in and speaking with us this morning. I told him after the last session, I said, we got to do this with Mr. Scott. I got to. I've heard him speak. I know kind of what he does a little bit, and I appreciate you coming in here and taking your time. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the summit and enjoy the great city of Montgomery while we're here in town. And I'm sure I will see you around, and I will see you at the next event. And hopefully you're the keynote speaker again, and you can give us some more insight onto your adventures that I've been hearing about.
It's my pleasure. It's been great to be here and stuff. I look forward to joining other events.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit that follow button on YouTube for more great content from Swamp Fox Insurance Agency.